Welcome to episode 63 of Comic Book Nation, the official podcast of Comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me today is my co-host, Matthew Aguilar.
What up, peoples?
And back with us on the couch today, Mr. Charlie Ridgely.
Yo, what up?
Nothing much, man. It's good to have you back, Charlie. Because we're going to talk about things I would label as very Charlie-centric today. First up, we are going to be talking about the new trailer for Bad Boys 3, a.k.a. Bad Boys for Life, but that's not all. We have also a new trailer for Black Christmas, some new movie news to share, some Marvel things to go over, plus we have our review of It Chapter 2, which is going to be hitting theaters as you hear this and scaring the pants off a lot of people, and we will be continuing our breakdown of the current Dawn of X storyline in X-Men Comics with our review of House of X 4. So don't miss any of this because it's going down as soon as we come back for our News Flash segment. All right, so first thing up in the news this week, we cleaned up last week in the last episode by talking about Terminator Dark Fate, but I think we can all agree that we got a nice splash of refreshing water on our faces in the form of the trailer for Bad Boys for Life, the long-awaited sequel or threequel to the Bad Boys franchise starring Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. And I think this trailer came along in exactly the right time, kind of moving into fall and out of the slow point of summer, to kind of give us something to look forward to because it really did capture that Bad Boys feel. It's like we didn't miss a step, even though the sequel is coming, so many years after Bad Boys 2 hit theaters. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, the chemistry's still very much alive. It looks like they've kind of hooked a good story for this. There's some good kind of 90s testosterone action all throughout, and the comedy is there, and it just felt really good to be back in the world of Bad Boys. So I am psyched. Bad Boys for Life doesn't look like it's going to let me down. And I think I might even like this better than 2.
Oh, I do enjoy 2 a lot, actually.
I don't think it's hard to get better. 2 was...
It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was big and crazy, but...
Yeah, but I'm not a person who goes and like Bad Boys 2 is like the worst movie.
No, I thought it was
way over the top. It's like
it's crazy and fun.
Bay.
So was the first one.
I think the first one was a better movie.
The first one was Michael Bay still working with a smaller
but I mean,
budget.
I thought 2 fit in really well, and I think 3. I mean, immediately from the first scene with the fire hydrant is the spot where like I knew from that point on. Oh, we're good. All right, they're not screwing this up. Like this is exactly what I expect. He's going to get mad about something with the car, and he's this kind of stylish curmudgeon. I really enjoyed it from the beginning to end. I thought
that's the first opening scene is like the big dramatic kind of Michael Bay
open the door.
Car, luxury car pulling up, doors opening on both sides, stars getting out, our leading people getting out, looking all beautiful. And of course, this is Bad Boy, so Martin bangs the car door into a fire hydrant, which sets Will Smith's Mike Lowry off about, Marcus kind of messing up his stuff as was a staple of the first film. And and then right from that moment, we're right back into it. And yeah, that's the genius of this kind of film. There's been a lot of talk and buzz about certain things about it, namely like how Martin looks in the film. Will Smith kind of looks like he doesn't age. Martin looks like he does age. And I think I've been kind of defending him in this because people have been like, what the hell happened to Martin? He looked like he put on weight and stuff. And I feel like that's part of the storyline of this film is kind of the joke that Marcus is kind of moving out of this action cop phase of his life. And he's just the dad and he's like settling down and probably has a dad bod by now and is like, just doing kind of a more mundane family thing when he gets sucked into this other kind of action kind of caper with Will Smith's Mike Lowry and is going to be kind of the comedic relief. I will bet dollars to donuts that we see a scene of just like a chase scene like in the first one where Will Smith's tearing down the street running after somebody and Marcus is trying to keep up but he's all like out of shape and slow and huffing. And
I don't understand why that's a shock now because for anyone to watch the second one, that was a huge part of the story was that he was phasing out. I mean, he retired, so to speak. And Mike had to get him back into it. And he already had that thing of like defending his daughter, right, with the first date at the door. And like he was already becoming more of a family. I don't want to do this all the time. I don't like gunfights. Also, who hasn't seen Martin Lawrence in the last 5 years?
Well,
I mean, yeah, he looks like Martin Lawrence.
I mean, and he doesn't look bad. He looks like a normal person should age after 20 years.
And people forget, like, Martin Lawrence was, like, teenage boy skinny, like, back in the day. Like,
I mean, that was Martin time.
It's only that he's compared to Will Smith, and Will Smith's the freak of nature. And like Samuel L. Jackson just apparently does not age at any point. Like, it's hard. You can't compare everyone to the standard of how Will Smith ages. Like, Martin looks like a normal guy Martin's age should look.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, I've just been, kind of defending him.
Yeah.
And like, one dude like is older now, and two, I guarantee this is going to be part of the film and like the comedy. Like,
and I think it would be smart to lean into that because that's always been what makes them work. One thing I did not love about this was the music choice. I totally get why there's that track, but the remix of that track sucks. Like in this trailer, like it's spliced together. It's Diddy mix. Because in 2. I mean, 2 had a great soundtrack. I thought I loved like "Shake Your Tail Feather" as an anthem, and then you still had the Dr. Dre assisted beats kind of throughout the whole movie.
I'm sure that this will have a great soundtrack to it.
I'm sure it does, but this particular cut of that song, really like sucked. I was like, I loved everything about it except for the song.
I don't know if the world's gonna rock with you on that. We've all been singing "Bad Boys for Life" ever since.
Yeah, but this splice of it blew. Like it just didn't. It didn't. Like I loved the parts of the song, and then it would hit this weird beat switch up, and I was like, "What is this? Just noise!" And stop yelling over the track, Diddy. Please, for the love of Lord. There's a couple times in this track where you hear him over, and I'm like, "Stop."
I mean, I thought it was a good fit. I don't have that.
No, I'm looking forward to something else.
All right. Well, it sounds like we're all on board. Bad Boys for Life is going to be pretty good. I like this was a Red Band trailer too, and they didn't hold back like the Joe Pantoliano.
Oh, that was great.
Kind of thing.
I always forget how great he is,
like just cursing,
and how great that role is.
Yeah.
And then you watch it, and it's like, oh yeah, the captain's hilarious.
He's so great.
Yeah, and it's just good. And I like this new crop with Vanessa Hudgens and the rest of the new crop.
Alexander Ludwig.
Yeah, whoever they are. They look good in that kind of
Vanessa Hudgens and the other people.
Yeah,
That's all what I really liked.
That was great.
He's like, no,
that was a
never.
Yeah, we're never doing that.
That was very like classic
Bad Boys.
Will Smith.
And it's also very smart with the way those characters are to bring in some younger people for them to bounce off of. I think it creates a lot of great comedic opportunity.
I had the idea as soon as I saw the trailer that like they were going to go like a Deadpool 2 direction. They're going to bring in these like young, like popular, known actors. They're going to go on this mission and they're just all going to die right off the bat.
Oh God, I hope not.
No, I don't.
And just straight up Deadpool it.
I mean, there's hints of that in the trailer.
Super dark,
something
super funny.
I think there's hints in the trailer that something dark happens. Yeah. I mean, there's a body on a sheet and people look upset. So that could be the case. I would prefer it like Matt that they're used for kind of comedic stuff. Marcus trying to like be like their dad and Will Smith trying to keep up with them, and Marcus kind of ragging on Will.
Because that's the way you can show that, yes, you can't look at Will Smith and go, oh, he's older, but you can show comparisons to these younger people, and he's actually, even Mike is having a hard time keeping up with. You can show that aging a little bit.
Yeah, and just things about like how they solve crimes using tech or not tech and stuff like that. Like, yeah, so all that stuff for tracking down something, they'd be like, I checked his Instagram and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Marcus like, what? Like, we're just going to go shake down some people. Like,
lots of
what are you talking about? So, like, So I wasn't mad. And that's a good thing because that was a moment that is so much different than Terminator Dark Fate trailer, where the line with Linda Hamilton and I'll be back does like hit like dead on arrival. Whereas, this callback to Bad Boys, it was really funny. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like this movie's doing everything right. And this isn't Michael Bay, for anybody who's wondering. These are two new to Hollywood and U.S. audiences directors named Adil E. Arbi and Bilal Fallah. So they'll be kind of
producing.
They've directed a bunch of Snowfall episodes, haven't they?
Yeah, they've done things like Snowfall and, like I said, but like how many people are kind of looking at that? So yeah. They did 2 episodes of Snowfall in 2017. They are doing Bad Boys for Life, and they're on board for Beverly Hills Cop 4 if that ever kind of happens. So, I mean, they've obviously done stuff that's really impressed people, and it looks. I mean, this looks good. This look like if you didn't tell me this wasn't a Michael Bay movie, I would be like, wow, this is somewhere between Michael Bay, Bad Boys 1 and Bad Boys 2.
Yeah.
Depending on the scene.
Which is probably a really good sweet spot to be in.
Yeah, that is. It's a good balance of both films. So that'll be good. Yeah, we just want to put that out there in case people get confused because everybody sometimes just assumes Michael Bay is involved in something that he's had his prints over previously, but he's not involved in this one. Well, I mean, he's probably.
I mean, that's what happened to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sequel when everyone was like, he's actually not directing. He's just on there as producer, but you couldn't tell.
Yeah, that's enough of a stain for some people, so, But all right, moving right along. If you haven't seen it, Bad Boys for Life trailers on Comicbook.com. Check that out. Have a good laugh. The next one is Black Christmas trailer. Black Christmas. I feel like Black Christmas gets rolled out every couple years as a remake of, a good horror story. But we have this new one that's out, and it looks like it'd be like put it in here because it looks like a fun spin on the Black Christmas premise. This one's more obviously kind of female empowerment centric, and I think I'm kind of ready for this one. It'd be a good one. It's coming at us soon. We just try to do regular horror updates, I guess. But what are you guys thinking about Black Christmas?
I mean, I dug the trailer, which I wasn't expecting to.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally unexpected.
Well, I mean, it wasn't that like, the premise or the act. I love the premise. I love the actress in it. Carrie Yules as like a weird cult leader villain is really it's a really fun idea. I love Imogen Poots. The problem with this was that this movie was not like this is not a release date or anything. It was fully announced as a movie that was going to go into production like 2.5 to 3 months ago.
Yeah,
it was announced.
Really hung up.
Well, it's crazy that it moved so fast. It was announced. It went into production a few weeks later.
You realize that
and now
movie
the trailer
can shoot in like a couple weeks.
I get it. I'm not bashing.
Especially one like this. It's just set in.
But sometimes when it's so quick like that, the turnaround. It's like, oh man, we have this idea. We want to get Black Christmas. We want to get Black Christmas out. We want to make some money. And they scramble and they make a movie and it doesn't turn out well. And I was kind of worried about that with the time frame. But this looks like a really fleshed out, fun. Yeah. Slasher kind of movie. I'm into it.
Also, for riffing on the music thing, I loved the way they did the music in this one. Like the weird tension bits of like the carols and the way that I really loved that. Also, my biggest thing is maybe I saw too much. I know that's not why horror people go to horror movies necessarily, is to like, for the story and the twists and whatever. But I did kind of feel like I watched the entire movie.
Oh, yeah, the trailer showed way too much.
I'm like, he's the cult leader. Okay.
One of the actresses,
that's a giant twist, and
one of the actresses in the movie got on Twitter and was like, "Hey, here's the trailer. It's so exciting, but just know that there's a lot in it. So if you want to just see it fresh, don't watch the trailer."
Here's the trailer, but don't watch the trailer.
Yeah, it's because
this is definitely one of the trailers that tells you the whole movie.
Yeah, there's 3 different times I'm like, that person's probably gonna die. Okay, well there's that, but I still want to see it. I'm excited to see it. I think it looks fun and a little playful, even though it has to deal with like all this death. That was my only bummer, is that I kind of felt maybe if they held just a bit back, I would go see it in the theater. Right now, I don't know if I'm going to go see it in the theater. It might be a wait and see on home video type.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's definitely that. I mean, that is definitely the line I'm on. I liked what I saw, but I don't know if I liked it enough for theater.
Yeah.
I will say, anytime Carrie Yules is kind of cast now, you should expect something twisted ever since Saw. Well, that's pretty much what... Or actually, before that, Kiss the Girls, actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
God, that's right.
Oh, that's the greatest Carrie. Dude, he's so good at the end of that.
God, I haven't seen it in so long.
One of my favorite last 15 minutes of any movie ever is Kiss the Girls and Carrie Yules' performance.
It's good.
In that, yeah. I've got to break her down. Yeah, man. It's really creepy. So
I feel like we should have a whole podcast of Kofi just recreating movies.
I totally agree.
I kind of laughed when I saw him show up as a kid in this one. I thought, oh man, so looking for you, horror, Black Christmas coming back. I mean, I've got another trailer, Comicbook.com for your viewing pleasure. Moving right along, another person making a comeback is. I was gonna say, I almost said it as if she's the character, but she's not. Laura Croft. Alicia Vikander is just the actress that I like. But no, Laura Croft is making another comeback. Tomb Raider is getting a sequel with Alicia Vikander. I think we were all on the line about whether that was going to actually happen or not, because the last Tomb Raider, the Tomb Raider reboot, wasn't a bad movie at all, but it just kind of came and went, and it was like mildly successful.
Yeah.
But it didn't like have that much of a buzz or anything, so we didn't really know, and it was kind of like this weird, are they, won't they, like, will they, won't they make another one? But they are.
Yay!
And so we got and it has a release date of March 2021. And we have
Ben Wheatley.
Ben Wheatley.
Yeah, there you go. Director.
Director.
Yeah, that sounds like somebody who did that very
I think
fast.
it ended up making like, I think the last one I read was like 273 million or I think it's in that ballpark.
It was
of what
produced,
it
for
made.
It wasn't a
was
big-
produced
it
for
wasn't a big hit.
94, only pulled in
Yeah.
58 domestically, but brought in about 275
75, okay.
internationally.
So yeah, like it was very much on that bubble, and honestly, after the reception was kind of right smack in the middle, and I thought, okay, I mean, as a fan of Crystal Dynamics reboot, that movie was actually very faithful to that tone and that storyline, even though they took some differences in plot and stuff like that. So now that we're getting one, I'm excited mostly because I hope they take on Rise, because I think Rise is a way more interesting story than the first reboot, and it has a lot more to do with like her past, but also like you're seeing her become the Tomb Raider version of Lara Croft as opposed to just the survivor.
Yeah, because that was what the first film did.
Yeah.
Like the first game was all about.
It was very
just moment to
faithful.
moment survival and her kind of realizing the skills. But yeah, this is the one where you don't want a superhero thing, because we did that with the Angelina Jolie thing, and that's not what we want. But she becomes this iconic person, and the end of the first one set up a much larger conflict for her to kind of unravel with the mysterious organization that kind of like screwed over her father and her, like, that lady who was close to her. I think it was like Emma Thompson or somebody, whoever it was. So there's a lot to dig into, and this is like the real Tomb Raider mythos we can get into.
Like Rise is so good about blending in this like kind of worldwide organization intrigue plot with just her and Jonah having like this old school adventure along the way. And it's one of those things like where you're really excited for a movie franchise, but you're more excited for the sequel than the first one, because you're like, you just got to get through this one. And you can make this hoop, you get to the real stuff, and that's why it's exciting.
It wasn't just the story. I think the first one, I haven't played the reboot games, so I don't have any kind of basis there. But just as someone, watching a movie, it really felt like it left a lot to be desired from the director's standpoint. Like, the script had, the story worked. Alicia Vikander is really good in the role. All the supporting cast was great, but there's many choices that were by the director. It didn't quite hit the mark, quite to a place where you wanted it to go. It really, and that's the news thing is getting Bentley, who is a really specific, unique kind of filmmaker. I think it does put a little bit of a damper on what you're hoping for it to be more of a directed adaptation of Rise.
No, I don't want it to be a direct. I want it to be more inspired by the character.
He's very much a person that's like, he's going to take an idea and he's going to do it his way.
Yeah.
And sometimes that works out really well. Like, I really enjoyed Free Fire with Brie Larson and Armie Hammer. He did that movie. I didn't love High Rise, which was maybe before that. But the Kill
writer
List,
of High Rise is writing this. So
the Kill List is very, very celebrated. That was his first like real big movie.
Well, and he's working with like half the people that he's worked with on other stuff. So that was actually very comforting coming out of this. It's not like the one lone voice of uniqueness coming to studio. He fits.
He just has a specific in his style, that's what the film lacked was.
But it sounds like he trusts his. Because I mean, they are bringing his like whole creative entourage.
And let's just hope me way more of Nick Frost, because the two scenes he was amazing, and I'm so much.
I'm not like, I could take or leave.
I love Nick Frost in general.
Just moving from trying to make a video game movie successful, being kind of blindness of and kind of the adventure, action, and adventure sections of this, and nailing those down would be really good.
Yeah.
It should be like a more threatening Jumanji.
I mean, that's what the games, especially the second and third, do so. I'm excited for somebody to kind of that. I don't have problems with them changing things or whatever. That's fine. That's going to come with it. And a lot of times it's for the better because it's a different medium. But I just want them, you have a foundation that's great. Don't ignore it. Take the bits that work and run with it.
Yeah. So. All right, so we'll be keeping you updated because I know we'll be talking about Tomb Raider for the next couple of years. So we'll keep you updated as we have to write about that until 2021. So moving right along, we're just going to do some quick Marvel cleanup. There are some things that are happening over on the Marvel side that we thought were interesting and we wanted to share with all of you. What's up?
It never stops.
No, Marvel never stops. First of all, Avengers Endgame is apparently still in theaters and still making money. Now, these theaters are sounding more and more like creep shows with just like one or two people sitting in the theater, but yeah, they're still, I mean,
All right.
well, I mean, just listen to the numbers. So, as
Way
of
to
this
shame
week,
these people, Kofi.
As of this week, it made $2,000 at 110 locations earlier this week, and over Labor Day it made $16,000. Okay, so 2,000 one day and 16,000 one day tells you, and okay, so just 2,110 theaters tells you that's like roughly about like a $20, close to $20 ticket, and like that's like one person per theater. So, like I said, I don't know what's happening in these, and maybe there are bum fights going on in these.
Wow.
Or, romantic trysts, like trysts that are happening. I mean, who wouldn't like a nice empty theater, Captain America hiring you in the phone to get romantic in? I don't know, but it's crazy. It's still out there. Marvel is just like it's still floating out there, and I mean, maybe you guys had different movie experiences like growing up. I did.
I worked at a theater. I'm with you.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about, baby. All right.
I get it.
So you're picking up what I'm putting down, but yeah, it's still out there. That's crazy. So Endgame is still in theaters. I guess these people are like not Blu-ray enthusiasts or something like that. I don't know, but good for Marvel. They're just really sticking to Avatar at this point, I guess.
When I
Just
saw
like-
that amount, I was honestly taken aback. I was like, it made that much now? Like, I'm shocked. I really thought it was out of
I mean, there's still
You
probably
think
those
about
Marvel
it, for the
diehards
price
still
of
trying
2
to.
tickets, you can buy the
Go
Blu-ray
buy
and it's
it.
permanent.
Yeah, go
But
buy
I mean,
it.
some people are still trying to do those marathon runs
Yeah,
and
guess so.
whatever else, and it could be my grandma who never heard of, doesn't know anything about Blu-ray, but knows about her second run theater.
There you
and
go.
There you go. So that was crazy. I mean, that blew my mind. I was like looking at this article and like, what? Really?
Yeah, that,
Yeah. The other one was Eternals. So, Madden kind of dropped the tease. If we have this extensive cast for Marvel's Eternals, we haven't seen the full thing yet. That we're gonna get more revealed for the movie, and I'll just think to myself, and he says, like, man, some other actors really care about their careers, huh? Their sound.
wow.
Why is it so negative? This is gonna be awesome.
Look at me. I didn't say that.
Because Brandon was talking about it in the office earlier. Like this
yeah.
movie's gonna be fantastic.
What?
I don't give it that.
I'm
automatic
more excited
pass.
for this movie than any other movie in Marvel's
Nah,
phase.
What?
Hands down.
Also, that
Nah,
was very high. I
me-
apologize to people that are listening
Yeah.
on the audio version of that.
I'm more
me-
excited for that than any other movie. Oh,
Are you kidding?
Are you joking?
Not at all.
Eternals.
Yes.
Eternals. Why? Why?
The only one that's even close to me is Doctor Strange because the multiverse of madness is such a crazy.
That
that's-
alone.
and
That
that's-
alone.
Thor
that-
looks
yeah,
great.
that's-
Thor's going to be great. I already know Thor's going to be great. But the Eternals has the opportunity to do what Guardians did and truly surprise us with a thing we don't know. Editor who she's made one feature film was one of the best movies that came last year. It is out of and that includes. I mean,
Oh, it has
you,
cast.
you and Richard, they're great. But then when you also throw in
Angelina Jolie,
she's
Salma
fine.
Hayek.
Salma Hayek, Camille Nanjiani, Brian Tyree Henry was one of the actors now. Period. And
You are making
Laura Dead.
Yeah.
She's I can't remember right now, and I put all these elements together and then have this weird ancient space stuff, like Jack Kirby stuff. I'm so what that presents, especially Chloe Zhao.
Jim was in it. I really thought.
Yeah, I know. We were talking.
Jim is the stand, right? I never said I hated or I don't know anything about it. But blind speak never found a reason to care about them in the comics. So I don't have the kind of original pool towards this movie. I think will be bad at all. But Doctor Strange is easy. Like I will take Doctor Strange, Black Panther 2, Thor.
Thor's the
I
other.
mean,
Thor looks great,
I mean,
and Shang-Chi's
yes,
going to be great.
so-
It's hard to find some
all of those are
I'm
way
excited
more
about all of
exciting
them.
than
Like,
this.
Even Black Widow, which I wasn't
Dude,
super excited about at
you
first.
know who's
I've
also
kinda come
like
around
great?
on.
Anson Mount's great. Ewan Rion's great.
Yeah, but you know who's not great?
Ken Loon.
You know where he's going.
But
with
yeah,
this,
but
right?
you
Ken
know
Loon's a
who's
great
not-
actor.
But do you know
where
who's
he's going.
not
Marvel
great?
Studios is a great production company.
Marvel Studios did
Marvel
Marvel team did that,
Humans, man.
and Jeff
Yeah.
Buck is horrible,
Like,
and we all know.
Sorry.
I think Eternals runs the risk of being Inhumans Part 2.
But Marvel TV made Inhumans, the same
don't
studio
care.
that made Iron Fist season 1.
I don't care. I don't think you can.
Like, that's
telling you
what we're
right
dealing
now.
with.
I think
Spice coming right now.
my problem is, and I've said this many times on this show, I'm gonna say it again. I think that Inhumans are just too kind of loose concepts and characters to really hammer down significant meaning to hand to a bunch of actors and say, here's who you're playing, this is why they're unique, this is why they're distinct, and sink your teeth into this. I think they're all going to be doing this, thinking it's Marvel, it's all good, they're going to start getting scripts, people are going to be like trying to figure out this thing as they go along. I predict this is going to be Marvel's first mess. I might end up eating crow, but I don't think so. The real prize is how Marvel throws a superhero boost to kind of martial arts action and deliver Shang-Chi. I think.
I'm excited Shang-Chi too.
I don't even something in my head conceptually that I could say this would be a really cool scene.
Yeah. All the Kirby's Eternals are on Marvel Unlimited.
Like,
go
I feel
look
like I'm
at the
gonna
Eternals book.
watch like a weird soap opera with like bad costuming, like is what I feel like I'm gonna see right now.
There's so
like
much.
Even a bunch of
so
Eternals fighting doesn't make me excited because I don't imagine that Kamal Nanjiani or
Kumail Nanjiani,
whatever, like Nanjiani, whatever his
name
is.
Kumail.
I know. Okay,
Nanjiani.
Nanjiani.
There you go.
He's great, by the way. I love him.
I've read his name 1,000 times. I don't have to actually say it. Yeah, that's good. Good for him. Great. You know what I'm not going to see in a movie? A jacked version of that guy. So I don't think that him, Brian Tyree Henry, or anybody else was on a green stage in these ridiculous, and they're like gods, fight. You know, I don't think that's good.
I don't think somebody that necessarily fight each other. The creative of the world and the politics and the crazy stuff that happened to bring that to life. It's going to be very like, I look at how Game of Thrones season 1 worked and different characters, the power struggle. I think that Chloe Zhao is really, really talented at getting the most out of a conversation between two people and taking that and making it really compelling and interesting and filming it in such a way that like you really feel like you're there and you're really drawn into what they're dealing with. And I think that kind of human connection that she's going to bring to these Eternal characters is something that really works. I think that by the time it's in a lot of these outside of this movie, it's going to be a one. Some of them are going to continue on to their movies after that, but those parts and to read out and to give it their all.
You still haven't described anything that like makes me excited for a Marvel blockbuster. This was a Disney series. I'd be like, man, Marvel's a game awesome.
Because last time I felt this way about a Marvel blockbuster, I don't know what whatever the stuff. It might be really cool. It was Guardians of the Galaxy, and that turned out to be one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, I don't think you conflate the two. Just because.
I mean, I'm not saying you conflate the two. I'm simply saying like I think that there is so much potential that we're not realizing that I look at differently because of Guardians.
I mean, I always realized Guardians' potential. Like
Guardians from. Like, Guardians immediately, I've been reading comics a while, right? And Eternals never, to Kofi's point, for me, never had that hook or that memorable story or that Jack Kirby isn't just a throw card that like, oh, it's Jack Kirby, it's great. It's not necessarily that.
I agree with what you're saying, but I think
Guardians did. Guardians always had
Guardians had so many iterations of great stuff.
No,
like
the Abnett landing
was so good, and it was recent. Kirby's
semi-recent, not comparatively.
I mean, it was 2008.
Yeah, so when did Guardians
Eternals
come out?
doesn't have any source material story.
When does Eternals has been around longer, and what does it have?
That's what I'm saying.
Nothing.
Is no one has gone and touched the property again other than Gaiman, and it wasn't very good.
So what are you excited about?
The original story is so great on its
like a recent and very interesting with a lot of different characters that had a lot of memorable plot points. Eternals doesn't have that.
Look, here's
over
the problem.
Its entire
here's
history.
My bottom line problem. We gotta move on. Like, not done well enough. Eternals isn't humans. Okay?
I'm not.
Like, I mean, that's just what it is. It's gonna be a weird race. It's been done well enough. It's still gonna make you say that was okay. I'd rather have.
So why are you excited for New Gods and not this when it's the same thing?
Oh, no. New Gods is a much different beast. The mythos is much different, much more. The whole story of, like, Darkseid and Highfather and their war and set by Trey sons and what happens to the sons and their pay coming around and Miracle.
So family Durant.
Goodness and fury and out of that kind of race. Like, all is much more than this.
So
a million New God stories I could go and pick and be like, these would be awesome.
I think that's the deal thinking as far as are these similar, like, out concept, out powerful, all this stuff. Yes, a lot of similar. I think I'm excited for guys, but I can still think up 3 stories off the top of my head as far as God go are way more memorable. I know those characters, what they're about, way more than I feel a lot of people know Eternals, and I feel that's the difference.
People don't know it because they didn't ever want to go back and touch it because they weren't. I don't know if it's they didn't trust. They were scared to.
But
I don't
never
think
Darkseid. Like they just.
But
Darkseid at least kept going with character.
If you want to make a movie, Darkseid, Brandis, Ryan, Mr. Mickle, and Big Barda, you already have captured the attention of
because you know who those people
wide
are.
swath of fans.
But that doesn't mean that it's not going to be good because you don't know who they are.
I'm not saying it won't be good. I'm just saying I don't have this reason to look at it.
There's no
because I also think they have so much freedom
to go. What we're saying is just that you're believing in potential that like we're wondering where you're seeing this potential. Like
I've watched Chloe Zhao direct, and I've read the Jack Kirby Eternals comics, and I've seen all those actors perform. When you get Marvel Studios that is yet to fail,
That is true.
I can't see where they're wrong with this. I don't see issue like where is it going to not be this is lacking. Every opponent, great film there.
So, forward to this now. Thank you. Let us know. Obviously, we're stuck here. So hit us up at #ComicBook.com. Know what the hell. Well, after Marvel talk, you was blown through.
What just has anyone's talking?
Yeah.
Wait.
So the last thing we just want to say is IP Renner. Jeremy went down. People started Jeremy Renner apps on every mess, and
It's been around for years.
yeah,
I didn't. I missed that boat
I
completely.
think he tried like a relaunch or something, but RIP Jeremy Renner.
Tried to Justin
App.
Timberlake MySpace his own app,
Yeah.
I guess, but didn't work. So.
But we've been having fun just saying RIP Jeremy Renner ... app because people have been freaking out. All right, so
Okay, wait, real quick. Can I just say my favorite reaction to that, though, is the person who tried to do like a funny burn on Twitter and post like a screenshot of them purchasing 99 stars has an entire Twitter account trying to get a refund from this. It's hilarious. Don't trust me, $90 stars. Funny though. You gotta read.
soon because we're gonna go to chapter 2, House of Art, and you don't miss us. All right, so we're back. So we're through this chapter 2 view. We're limited time because we just down about eternal.
Listen to that discussion.
This conversation.
Sorry.
I mean,
I feel like this is my fault. I'm apologizing to everyone for the loss of time.
I select a guest for every episode. It's not your fault. So, It Chapter 2. It Chapter 2 is here. Obviously, this is the second volume of Stephen King's original It novel. They split it into 2 movies. So this is the one that takes place 37 years, I believe, or something like that. 27 years. Original. Penny returns to Derry, starts terrorizing. The losers are now adults. They are back to kind of honor their promise made at the beholder. It's the Derrys of this monster, except for Mike, who has stayed in the town, and so now they kind of got to recapture their memories, and from this bond they had, they can, push back Pennywise again and defeat him for good. If you've ever seen the mini-series of It, you know that the second half, when they're adults, is the chapter where things get darker and crazier in a Stephen King kind of way. There's a lot to do in the second half of this book about how the mysticism behind how they form this bond, what Pennywise is him, and all they reclaim these memories in this whole process is pretty, it borders on sci-fi at times with like how trippy it is. And I say It Chapter 2, I would say, is a very solid blockbuster horror sequel and in concluding chapter of this. For me personally, and I know this will be the split down, all these conversations about it, It Chapter 1 is the better one. Simply because it's tighter and it's more succinct, and it's a very kind of much clearer story about kind of childhood and trauma and, Pennywise as a metaphor for growing past your fears and all this stuff. And it has a very clear path of development for all the characters. And it uses its time and distills King's novel very smartly. It was one of the best Stephen King adaptations I've seen. It Chapter 2, I don't think does anything particularly wrong. I just think it's a victim of, like so many films, is a victim of its own success.
Yeah.
Because It Chapter 1 was such a hit, director Andy Muschietti, I think, and Warner Brothers felt like, we can kind of not rest on our laurels, but like we're confident that we're, what we're doing, and we can lean a little bit more into the Stephen Kinginess of all this. And so I think that's where you end up with, which is a movie that's not as tight. And I'm not using that in like the pitch meeting sense, but like tight as in well put together and smooth.
Evil clowns are tight.
Yeah, evil clowns are tight. There are some great set pieces, some great concepts in the film, but like in the middle where they're doing this whole thing about trying to reclaim their bond and recover their memories and do all that search and that thing, it gets a little bit more clunky, and they lean again into the weirdness of Stephen King a little bit more, which was something that kind of troubled me about a movie like Pet Sematary, which we reviewed earlier this year. So I would give it a solid, we're not allowed to do this around here, but I would give it a solid 3.5 out of 5.
That's exactly what.
And I think if you're looking for the whole story altogether, it's a very good adaptation of it altogether as one big story. But I would definitely kind of put this in the category of being something that's good, but going to be hard for me to watch multiple times, which I don't want to scare anybody, but I'm also kind of coming around to that on Avengers Endgame in a way. And both are nearly 3 hours long. So I thought, I've never been one of those people who said like a movie has to be short to be good, but I'm kind of coming around to that. So
I understand.
Yeah, I think the term I've been using for It Chapter 2 is faithful to a fault. Like it is so incredibly
You're trying to get one of those.
faithful.
You're trying to get like a little tagline up somewhere.
No, they won't. No, I mean, I'm using that as a
they
bad
won't
thing.
ever
I don't want them to. I'm just saying, like that's the best way for me to describe it. Is like it's
Yeah.
so faithful to Stephen King's book, and it embraces all of the weird, wacky things about Stephen King and his endings, which they make fun of his bad endings in the movie, and he is in the movie making fun of his own bad endings. And then this movie, I feel like, is that where it's just kind of like it ends really strangely and weirdly. And if you love Stephen King's books, I think you'll have a lot to really love about this movie because it's so accurate to the book. There are things to me that I don't think that work really well in a book when you're imagining them, and they don't work super well on a screen. And they did it word for word almost, and so they succeeded in that regard. But I think they could have done a little more with it to make it more accessible as a movie.
Matt, you're always interesting because of your place. because of like you're like a loose horror fan, but you're not like hardcore.
Yeah.
And your sensibilities outside of horror are very much fluffier. They're like So I'm always interested to what your perspective on this is.
I liked this as much as I liked the first one. I would probably put the first one a little bit higher above it if I had to really like eke out which one's better. But I didn't have this giant gap between both movies. I thought they're different in their sensibilities. I thought the first one, one of the biggest things I did was like before there was a screening, right? And before that screening, I was like, you need to go see this to people, even if they weren't horror fans, because the first one is just a good movie. It's not a good horror movie. It's just a good movie. And so regardless of if you're, it has some scares, but honestly, the first one didn't scare me at all. So going into this, I kind of expected more of the same. And this one to me is way scarier. And like my wife ended up like putting hands over her eyes a couple times, like for her. And she didn't do that at all through the first one. To me, there are more impactful scares in this one, but as a coming of age story, like some of that is missing from the first. I thought the adult cast was great. So I mean, I like them about here. I don't have a problem with the leaning into the Stephen King things. I think what they did here was just about perfect as far as if you think too hard on it, the house of cards will fall. Like if you think about how everything relates to everything else and go, well, where did Pennywise really come from? And what does it have to do with it? If you think about it too hard, it'll all fall. But if you don't, just on the surface, and that's what it presents, I think it all works. And you leave and you're kind of satisfied. So,
as a real quick wrap up, let's see if we have a consensus. Who was your favorite adult cast member in this? Mine, without a doubt, Bill Hader.
Yeah, Hader 1,000%.
Kind of walks off.
They were all really good. I think they were all really
Yeah.
good. McAvoy was,
But
probably
McAvoy's like a
the
straight man who's very reliable.
He was still good.
Yeah,
I don't know the actor's name.
And stuff like that. But
I thought Chastain was underused.
Yeah, but she was good when she was there. The guy who played Ben,
she
the older
didn't get
Ben,
used much. Yeah, he was good.
And he looked just like the kid Mustafa, who plays
Mike.
The Old Spice guy. He's a phenomenal actor, apparently. He was really good in this. I think they all did a great job. But
Hader.
Yeah, but
for
Hader
me-
walks off. I mean, he's just killing it right now.
Yeah.
Between this and Barry, like
Barry,
Bill Hader.
Barry.
Like,
Great,
yeah.
man.
I can't
Who
believe
knew?
Barry.
Saturday Night Live, that Bill Hader would step out and be,
Great.
so great. So, yeah, I don't think any of us are like, I think Chapter 2 will be missing a lot of the novelty of the mainstream kind of fascination that the first one had. It was such a breakout hit. I think this one will just be kind of like, yeah, that was a conclusion. Like, we got it, and it was cool. It's going to make a lot of money.
It's definitely it's not going to disappoint you if you like the first one. It's going to be satisfying as a conclusion. It might just not be as good of a conclusion as
and it won't be as buzzed about probably. Some key scenes, there's some iconic scenes. I'll just say spiders and things like that, like from the miniseries in the book. But I think that'll be about it. And people just tracking the changes and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't think it'll go down as like a milestone horror film. All right. Moving right along because we got to wrap it up. But before we do, we got to talk a little bit about House of X4, which this one isn't so much a discussion of mystery because this is the most linear chapter of Dawn of X we've gotten so far. It literally just picked up end of word story. Rare that had either no jumps to time or side scenes like
major
Sabretooth
plot twist reveals or anything like that.
Yeah, like Sabretooth, courtroom scenes or anything. No, this one is a straight-up thriller that shows the X-Men strike force on a mission into space against Orcus, the human organization from like AIM, S.H.I.E.L.D., and all these other people who are basically, they're trying to stop the activation of a new villain that builds master molds which then builds Sentinels that will eventually rise up into a machine supremacy and kill all mutant kind in this future Moira lived through in her 9th life.
Got all that?
Got all that? Yeah. So this issue is just straight up the X-Men on a strike mission against Orchis on this station and I love Hickman because he can be so complex but so simple at the same time. It's a simple thing: release 4 levers, send Matt to that anchor mother mold, and let that thing go floating into the sun to destroy it. And they got to get all 4 levers. And of course, this is a thriller story in which, it seems, and it's a great thriller story in the sense that at first you're rooting for the heroes. It seems like it's all going well. Wolverine murders his way to a lever. Nightcrawler teleports and beats some guys up and gets his lever off. But as soon as they get those 2 levers off, Orchis and Dr. Gregor, and I've been going back reading House of X1, and it is amazing how much of this is just seeded from the first issue and all of this. I mean, from Dr. Gregor to like all in her theories about mutants and all this stuff and explaining why she is the way she is. But Dr. Gregor kind of and Omega Sentinel mount a counterattack and it starts to go badly for the X-Men very quickly.
Yeah.
He starts with Archangel. We left him being blown up in a ship. Out of one of the Orchis agents did as a sacrifice play. Archangel's dead. Husk is dead. They didn't even need to come along.
No.
They just got killed. M gets shot down defending Jean Grey in the shuttle from an Orchis attack. And then it really kicks into high gear as we get some of probably the most tragic and brutal X-Men story that we've probably read in 10 years. Because this entire team of X-Men, this is like some Rogue One type stuff, like just get completely killed. We're talking major characters. We're talking Cyclops, Jean Grey, Mystique, Wolverine, and Nightcrawler. All get killed trying to complete this mission, usually in sacrificial ways. The most heartbreaking be the one you wrote up, Matt, which is one of probably the most heartbreaking X-Men scene we've had in years. Is they get down to the last anchor. Cyclops gets his off, but the humans stop them from getting the last one off. And the only way they can do this is for Nightcrawler to teleport Wolverine out onto Mother Mold's last anchor, the arm. Well, this thing is powered by the sun and kind of hangs over the sun. So you're talking about teleporting into solar radiation. And they have this completely awesome Nightcrawler Wolverine conversation because their whole relationship is based on Kurt's intense faith and Logan's lack thereof. And Kurt always trying to inspire Logan in faith, and Logan always questioning Kurt's faith and being like, how can you still believe all this crap? Yeah. Like, given what we've seen. And they just have this awesome moment between the two of them.
That's all.
One page.
Yeah, it was one of the best.
Yeah, we all were like tearing up, like Logan, because they're important, they die. Logan
it's no fun.
Yeah, and look at him. Do you think they're basically a heaven for a guy like me? Like almost past like when we die, like look for me, and I'll wake up and I'll be like your buddy in the afterlife, and I'll be right there.
Thinking about it.
Yeah, and then they like teleport out, and it's horrific because the art shows you Pepe Larraz, I think.
Yeah.
He turns and Logan, true fashion, considering and hacks this last anchor and sends it into the sun along with him.
And Mother Mold's like talking trash while this happens.
The thing is, for the first time, Mother Mold's been free from to me mold in its terror.
Yeah,
it is like a more psychotic version of that AI from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And Mother Mold, because the humans turn it on to try to stop the X-Men from completing their goal, but as well as it starts going on this whole almost like Ultron in the beginning of all quickly based to nation. It's just like I've looked at mutants and humanity, and you're all crazy.
Yeah,
and we've stolen this fire, and we're gonna from Olympus, and we're gonna burn you all down. And so it seemingly dies, but that's where it leaves us. And of course, it is a very heartbreaking. Oh, Scott and Jean get murdered horribly.
Jean,
like.
When Jean and Scott says goodbye and he's like, I'm not going to make it back. Like,
that's after Wolverine dies, they're trying to get off the station. They're the last two. But Scott gets taken out by Omega Sentinel and Dr. Gregor for, who blasts his face off for killing her husband.
Which was a great scene, by the way, because I know, like, that hurt me. Like, Cyclops dies.
Yeah.
But I love that, like, she reacts like a human character would. And be like, no, I'm not taking you captive. You've killed my husband. Like, I'm killing you. I'm going to kill you. I'm not going to do that. But then when Xavier's narration starts and Jean is like in the pod and like the Sentinels
drones just surround her.
It's like, just that last 3 pages is just so well done. And then it gets to the very end and you hit that Xavier when he like slams the table and he's talking, he's like, no more. And you see that like just repeated and like all these newspaper clippings start popping up. And it's
that's
just
the theme of the issue.
So much.
Charts are about how many times mutants have been, decimated by not just humans, but like
tears running down his face.
So good.
Yeah, and we don't know. And this is the thing we wanted to end on. With this, Jonathan Hickman was story avoiding not actual dynamics team. We hadn't seen on that. It was a very intimate hit that invoked history. Interaction, harrowing mission. But he hit the can down the road about as far as we can kick it. We're about halfway through this, and the can has been kicked. So the question going into next week in Power of X is, are these men real? Because we read back at House of X1, and it seems odd people, or it could be clones of the X-Men, and maybe this is, sacrificed as we thought. Is Mother really dead? Because some big from floating into the sun, and it's AI. So, there's that, AI give them can find a way to transmit itself, health, whatever.
I think someone's going to change this one. There's
only
5.
Finally, Xavier's more seems drastic.
Yeah, that leads into the odd people. Is there the timeline? All this stuff. This is just crazy. Started so stuff. But the thing to remember is the powers of long. There's the alphabet in the back gives you the code. The next 2 are going to be issues written and going. And at the end of every issue, there's the 2 issues coming, and you can decipher what those titles are. And so next you call something. Mr. Creating Mutants and all